Hello YouTube, it is I, your friendly neighborhood SpideyWing. Today I'm going to be reviewing one of my favorite Megazord toys. The Thundersarus Megazord from Dino Thunder, or, if you really want to go that far, the deluxe, it's also Abareno from Abaranger. So, the main Zord set is, of course, 3 Zords. You can see them right there. So let's say we move, and I'll start covering the individual Zords in more detail. And here are the first of the Dinozords I'm going to cover, the Blue Ranger's Tricerazord, which, in my opinion, is a very nicely detailed Triceratops Dinozord. Sorry. I like it a lot. Why am I covering it first, though? Because it's blue. Blue is my favorite color. And it, like I said, it is nicely detailed. It's got lots of little bits of silver on it. And my favorite part, something that was actually kept from when this toy was initially released in Japan as the Deluxe Bakuria Gatai Abareno from Abaranger. And let me cut off my light so you can actually see this. You can see how very nicely chromed the shoulder, or what will be the shoulder for the Megazord, is right here. And I've had this toy for a few years now, and this chrome has not flaked off or anything. So, it's very well done. However, there really isn't that much articulation here. Pretty much everything here, there is some movement, but it's pretty much just for transformation's sake. The mouth does open and close, though, which is nice, I have to admit. The only other movement it does is its gimmick, which is this. The Zord's horns can move up and down. See? Up and down. Down and up. Down and up. So, yeah. That's about it for the Tricerazord. So, let's say we haul out the Pterazord, which is probably the second most articulated Zord in the batch. It's got a fairly well realized shoulder joint here for the wings, and the wings, this is more of a transformation joint, as are these, but everything moves pretty well, and with a little bit of positioning, you can actually get it into a fairly nice little flying pose. So, props for actually, being able to articulate a good pose. However, while like with the Tricerazord, sorry, my brain is not really all that here ever. It is very nicely detailed, for what it is. It's probably the plainest Zord, though. You get some nice detail in the head, but other than that, there really isn't any molding lines or anything like that beyond the stuff that's beside these things here, which are painted too. But it doesn't detract from it. I still think it's a very nice Zord, and it's probably the most basically well-articulated Zord, because it's got moving hips. So, that's it for those two. So let's say we get this thing off and concentrate on the beast of it and what forms the majority of the Megazord. The Tyrannosaurus Dinozord, which is so big it can't really fit with this particular filming rig. I'm going to keep it here anyways because I'm going to be doing a lot of in-close movement, so I apologize. But as you can see, this thing is a beast. It contains the electronic action for the toy, which I'm going to be covering a little later on. It's also got the majority of the paint apps, and as you can see, just as with the Tricerazord, wonderfully chromed shoulder. And like the Tricerazord, it mostly doesn't move. It's got a lot of presence, though, I do have to admit. This thing has the most presence of most of my collection, so it's just one of my favorites for that. It does move, though. It's got knee joints, ankle joints, a hip joint, and this particular joint, while it does work very well for it, it's got the little up and down wrist joint, and it's got a little shoulder joint here. This is pretty much for transformation. See? But all in all, this thing is insanely articulated, and although it does unfortunately lose a lot of it, it doesn't lose all of it. Oh, and the mouth moves, but I generally keep it close because you can see the Megazord's head in there. So, what can these things do? Well, besides stand on a shelf and look awesome, they combine. So give me a second, I'll start out with combining. Okay, this right here is the first step. It's an incomplete composition for the Megazord, but it did get used in the show. In Abaranger, I believe this was referred to as Oo Abareno, but my memory's not that good, so feel free to correct me if I got that wrong. Why am I covering this first? Well, I want to show off the articulation for this toy, and believe it or not, there's actually some. You can see it's got this basic Sentai Power Ranger standard of the rotational joints here. But it's also technically got a knee joint. See? It actually bends some, so you can actually get some movement. And the foot joint, the ankle joint, sorry, can ratchet one position back. It can't move forward any. It's just the limitations of this. But it can click back a little. And as for the hips, they can technically move. See? They can't really move back, but you can move them forward to ratchet. So, you know, it's very poseable. Oh, and one other thing I forgot. Knee, upper thigh joint swivel. Nice. So, yeah. It's it's actually rather poseable in this form. And something I modified to do this, I modified it so that way the head can turn. See? The head, I can make my head turn, which is, I think it just opens up so much posability. It helps so much to have a movable head joint. If anyone wants to know, I can certainly tell you guys in comments, but for right now I'm just focusing on the toy itself. And, well, that's about it for articulation. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to attach the Megazord, and we'll get into everything else.